Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sarah Newman, and I'm so happy to show you the Alice Through the Looking Glass collection from our friends at Stamperia. We have pattern papers in 12 by 12 and 8 by 8. We've got die cuts, we've got rice papers, and we have stamps, all featuring classic Alice illustrations that many of us will remember from the books. Everything is designed to make it easy to create some really fun projects with a vintage style. And today I'll share a few project ideas with you and a couple of fun techniques. As you can see, we have a lot to explore today, and I'm so glad that you're here. Come play with us. Let's take a closer look at today's supplies, and we can start with our pattern papers. So we have this collection of 12 by 12 designs. There are 10 double-sided sheets here, of course, starring Alice. And there's also this really beautiful kind of collage effect in these background papers. So you've got text and script and kind of looks like old paper, some spattering on here. Really just a beautiful, rich collage look, and I think is just really beautiful for all kinds of projects. So if you're a book person like me, this is really a big treat. Now inside here, you've also got some cutouts, and I'll flip to the back to show you some of these. So you've got some areas where you can do some journaling or some stamping on there, and then you've also got some elements that you can cut out and use in your projects too. So this size is of course ideal for scrapbook pages, home decor items, and cards as well. Now we also have an 8 by 8 paper pack, and this has the same patterned papers. It's just reduced in size to fit, as you can see. And this is perfect for smaller surfaces, smaller projects, of course, cards as well. Okay, so then we have our rice papers. Now, you know we love our rice papers, and the Alice designs are really some of my favorites. So I'll just take you through these quickly. We have Wonderland, which has this beautiful teal color on it. We've got Looking Glass. You can see the word Alice up here, an owl, and then here is our Alice. We've got a beautiful background. This is Alice's wall texture, which I just think is really, really pretty. We have rounds, which as you can see, super easy to cut out, and these will be great focal elements on a card. So will the cards, and this one is called Cards. And as you can see, you've just got lots of nice square images in here that you can easily cut out, or you can tear around the outside edge and use these on your projects too. So then we also have some chipboard die cuts. Now I know it's really hard to see them in a package like this. This is how they will come, but I took them all out and put them onto some cardstock so you can see a little bit better. So this is the Alice Through the Looking Glass set, and you have 47 die cut images. You've got the playing cards, you've got the chess pieces, you've got Alice in a couple of different sizes. You've also got our friend the Mad Hatter, clocks, and all kinds of really fun different imagery on here. Now, last but definitely not least, we have the stamp set. Now, as a stamper, this makes me really, really happy. I find that Stamperia's stamps are really some of the very best quality that I've worked with, and they make just perfect impressions. So this set is a lot of fun. You've got 11 images on here. You've got a nice big pocket watch. You've got the white rabbit, and you've got 2 sizes of Alice, plus some messages and accent pieces in here too. Now, of course, everything is designed to come together really easily, which makes it a lot of fun to play with. So now that we've seen the supplies, let's take a look at some projects. Let's begin with this piece of home decor, which uses 2 layered chipboard pieces as the base. So I have a 7-inch circle chipboard piece, which is glued onto an 8-inch circle scallop. So let me show you how they come. Just like this, as you can see, super easy to customize them with paper and chipboard elements, and they are a lot of fun. Nice and sturdy, but still pretty lightweight. So this one here says, Happy Unbirthday to you, so it could be something fun for someone celebrating, or maybe somebody who's in a little bit of denial. Either way. Okay, now in this case, I've covered the chipboard circle with pattern paper, and then I layered the wall texture rice paper on top. So this is what that wallpaper rice paper looks like. Really beautiful florals, and it pairs really nicely with the geometric, so I've got some nice visual balance on here. Then I have a big chipboard focal. I've got some smaller elements here, and then of course our message up at the top. So let's take a look at a few steps, including how to do the rice paper. So what I'm going to do is bring in this chipboard circle, which I have covered with pattern paper from the 12 by 12 set. So I just put glue on the front of that chipboard piece, put the paper down, turned it over, and then used a pair of scissors to trim around the outside edge. Super easy to do. Now I want to cover this with some rice paper, and I'm going to grab this one here, this sheet. This is looking glass, and so I've got some nice elements here. I've got some background that I can use. I've also got Alice sitting in her chair, which would also be a lot of fun too. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of play with the positioning here, and I think I do want Alice in this chair. So I could use a pair of scissors to fussy cut around here. It really isn't that difficult, some pretty easy curved lines. But another great way to do this is with a damp brush, and you can simply tear around the outside edge. So I've got a water brush here, and I'm just going to kind of paint around the outside edge. And what I'll do is just continue to dip my brush in some water here and really make sure that this is totally saturating my rice paper. And maybe I want to make sure to get that butterfly there too. Let's make sure to get him and come along like so. And then all I need to do is just gently separate those fibers and come along like so. And if I bump into any of the thicker fibers in the rice paper, I can just use a pair of scissors to sort of snip that apart. And you may find you need to re-wet some of the areas, which is quite easy to do. Oh, see, I've got one of those little white fibers in there, so I'll just grab a pair of scissors and give that a snip, and then we can continue tearing. So it's a really easy process to do. And again, you could of course use a pair of scissors for this, but I kind of like having those feathered edges of the torn element. Okay, working around here, and there we go. One really stubborn little fiber in here. There we go. Okay, so I've got Alice out of the rice paper, and then still take a look. I've got a lot left of this sheet, so I've got much more that I can still work with and play with. Okay, so now I have Alice, I've got her butterfly, and she's tucked up in her cozy chair. So now I can kind of figure where I might want her to go on here. And you'll notice that when I'm placing this down, I can kind of figure, do I want the lines of the background paper to be going this way? Of course, I could turn things around like this as well. So you can really play with the positioning too. Now what I'm going to do is just use a little bit of adhesive and glue her down. So I recommend a white glue, and Creative Expressions has a cosmic shimmer glue, which is really perfect for this, and that's what I'm going to be using. So I'm going to take a damp brush and just pick up some of this adhesive. You don't need to overload it, and I'm just going to put some down here, kind of in the center area where I know I want to put my rice paper, and then just put this down here like so, smooth from the center out toward the edges. And then what I can do is just come back with a little bit more glue and add some more just around those edges. especially with some of those torn edges, you do definitely want to make sure that you are smoothing all of those out. And if you have anything that's overlapping, you can kind of smooth it around, and like so. Then be sure, of course, to put your brush in some water so that you don't accidentally get your bristles glued together, and then you have a really nice focal image on your chipboard piece. So again, this is a great way to use those 12 by 12 papers. And then of course I've got a scallop piece that I can put this right onto. Now with my original piece, I used some ink to go around the outside edges. That was the Thundercloud ink from Hunky Dory. And what I just did was kind of scuffle around the edges like so, because you don't need to go in the center, since you know that part will be covered up. So you can see, you could add as much ink or as little as you want to on here. So again, once you've got all of your elements decorated, you can add a little loop of ribbon up here at the top, and you have a really fun little piece of birthday or unbirthday decor. Okay, here's another card that I want to show you. Now this one is using a lot of the very same techniques we just looked at, but on a card. So you can see I have my beautiful pattern paper, again from the 12 by 12 set, and the focal is from the Cards Rice Paper set. So let me show you this one. This is one of my favorites because you've got some nice easy focals on here. Now I have this mounted onto a piece of white cardstock just so that you've got some stability. But you can also layer these onto pattern paper. So just take a look at this one, for example, on pattern paper versus being on white paper. So you can really change the look of the rice paper just depending on what you are layering it onto. So that's a lot of fun. Now with this card, I've added some chipboard elements with the chess piece and the stopwatch on here. And then of course we've got our Alice in the center, a little dazzle here. Now because I have a lot of linear elements on here, I placed the crown at an angle just for some visual interest. And then on the card inside, I've got some more pattern paper, more chipboard, and the continuation of that dazzle message on here with a happy birthday. And of course, some more of those chipboard elements as well. So this is our first card of today's webisode. Let's take a look at another one. With this card, I've started with patterned paper, and you can see that area here. This is what I've covered the card front with. And then I layered on top of it with a piece of the Wonderland rice paper. And I used, I think you can see, I used this teal, really beautiful floral section over here. And then just simply glued that on top, just as we saw with our unbirthday home decor. And I really like how it's creating some depth and some layers, not just with the colors, but also with the patterns. Really easy way to create a nice background. Then I have another strip of pattern paper down here at the bottom, and I've layered on some chipboard elements. And this bottom piece is really just to create a kind of a grounding area for the collage elements. The pocket watch you see here is from the stamp set. Now, I've mentioned before how impressed I am with Stamperia stamps. They really are a great quality. So this is the pocket watch that I stamped, and I just cut around the outside edge and added this on here. So let's take a look at how to use the stamps. And I'm going to bring in one of my favorites, which is Alice, of course, and I've just got a piece of smooth white cardstock. And I figured I would use my Prism ink, and this one is slate gray. So I've got Alice onto a clear acrylic block. Of course, you could also use your Misty. That's usually what I'm using. I never put mine away. But in this case, I'll just grab a block. We'll ink up our Alice stamp. And I like these ink pads because the pad itself is actually higher than the base of the plastic base of the ink pad. So it really does allow perfect coverage. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn her over and gently press. Make sure that I've got contact with all of those areas, and there we go. Really nice detail, quick and easy to do. And of course I could choose to color her in. I could use colored pencils. Now because I used a dye-based ink pad, I don't want to use a watery medium such as like watercolor, or using ink pads, dye ink pads as a watercolor, because of course then my lines will be smeared. But think about how much fun she would be if you embossed her. Then you could use those watery mediums as well. So lots of possibilities there. Then for the card inside, I've got Alice stamped again, and then the word Wonderland on here. So you don't need to do a whole lot because these illustrations are so beautifully detailed. There's really just so much that you can do with them, or you can simply use them as is. Now with the pocket watch, I stamped this onto pattern paper, so it gives me a little bit of an antiqued effect. And then I cut it out and popped it up onto some foam tape. Now I inked around the edges pretty heavily using, you guessed it, my favorite, the Thundercloud ink pad. Gives a really nice soft shadowy effect around the outside edges. And then I've got a quick and fun card design. So we've looked at cards and we've looked at a bit of home decor, but there's one more project that I want to share with you. So we've been working a lot with our 12 by 12 Alice paper pack papers, but since the 8 by 8 papers have scaled down images, I thought they would be perfect for a fun tag in a bag project. So this is what I've got here to show you. Now the tag in a bag cutting die is really one of my favorites, and you've got two dies in here. So as you can see, you've got one that makes a 3" by 5 1/4" folded pocket, which is going to look like this when it's unfolded, and it will look like this when it's folded up. And then you have a tag that is going to fit just perfectly right inside. Now in this case, I'm only using the bag because I've got a little paper pack cutout inside here that will just tuck right inside with a little message. So as you can see, there we go. So I thought I'll show you how to do the folding of this. It's really quite simple. So here's the bag cutting die, and I've cut this from another one of the 8 by 8 papers. So when you die cut this, you're going to have that perfect scalloped edge on there. All of the score lines will be scored, and you can kind of decide which side of the paper you want to have as the front and which you want to have as the back. You can use a bone folder if you want to, or you can just use your finger to score this up. Really easy. So those are my two sides. I'm going to flip this over and fold up the bottom. So the bottom can be on the outside, or you can have that tucked in the inside if you want to as well. Now when you're adhering everything, I do recommend that you use some of this extra sticky tape. That's going to hold everything in place and make it a little bit more durable. Now what you can also do, of course, is just grab one of your ink pads and maybe even a blending tool and add some shading around the outside edges on there. And so what I've done with mine, before I adhered all of the sides and the flaps, I went around and inked with a little bit of that Thundercloud ink pad. Okay, so inside my tag in a bag, instead of a tag, I've got one of the postcards from the 8 by 8 set. So this little guy here, and of course they're double-sided, so I've got something on the back as well. And then I've got one of the cutouts from the 8 by 8 pack in here. Now this is a really cute one. Let me show you this as it comes in the 8 by 8 set. So here it is, you can see with the little playing cards. It's almost like a little book. So this is one side of it, and then this is the other side. So with our playing cards. So of course you could cut these apart and use them individually, or cut it out as one piece and just fold it in the center, and you have this little element here. Now on the inside, I've got a Dazzle message. I've got an Alice cutout, which I've fussy cut and then popped up onto some foam tape. I've got a key chipboard element on here, and it just tucks perfectly right inside. And then for the outside of my pocket, I've got another little strip of pattern paper, got some more of those chipboard elements, a little bit of jute twine here, and then another Alice fussy cut and popped up on some foam tape. So I have some dimension on here. And then this is what the back will look like. Some really fun teapot pattern paper on here. And I just love how easily this all comes together. And I love the size too, because this is great not only for a message, but you could also tuck inside a little gift card or another recipe or some other small gift in there as well. Okay, so this is our very last and final project with today's collection, but I think you can see just how many fun things you can create with the Alice set from our friends at Stamperia. Just a couple of the things that we've done today. A big thank you to our friends at Stamperia for these beautiful supplies. I had a blast with these. And thank you so much for joining me today. We're really glad that you're here, and we're so happy that you're part of the Paper Wishes family. Please feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com.